I'm going to give it a couple minutes here, let some people join. All right, I think we're just going to get started here. So welcome everyone. I'm Damon Monty with Accessible Services at the IDS. I'm the president of the Engineers Association. I hope you're enjoying this Minnesota tropical weather we're having and have broken out the shorts and t-shirt. You can see my background is representing the warm Minnesota weather here. So on behalf of BOMA, I'd like to congratulate our 2021 winners of the Best to BOMA Awards. Our Senior Engineering Professional of the Year, Hal Kordowski with Zeller, and our Engineering Professional of the Year, Sean Peterson with Hines. Congratulations to you both on this accomplishment. Very well deserved. We have a great association of engineers, so thank you all for contributing your hard work and dedication in operating your buildings with excellence. So I've got a couple of announcements. BOMI is pleased to announce the latest launch of online self-paced courses. It's now available for all courses required for SMA and the SMT learners. If you're interested in achieving your certificate or designation, please visit BOMI's website for more information. So registration is open for the March general meeting. What the Tech will be examining the key systems that will assist in planning of the upcoming transition to returning tenants to an office safely. So remember, all engineers are welcome to attend both the engineer and general meetings. Our Emerging Leaders Council is putting on a school supply drive benefiting the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers. Members of the ELC will be collecting donations at number 12 Cider in the North Loop. That's between 3 and 5 p.m. on March 17th. Our next engineer meeting is a planned building tour. It's of the Gateway project, but due to restrictions of the current environment, it's not been confirmed yet. So we will keep you all updated with our weekly communications, so just keep an eye out for that. And if we're able to do so, we'll open the registration. So just keep your eyes out for that. So now I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Derek Hilstead with Dunwoody College of Technology and Charlie Holt with Better Building Data. Derek currently serves as Assistant Professor of Construction Sciences and Building Technology at Dunwoody College of Technology in Minneapolis. In addition to his teaching responsibilities in the construction management program, he developed new facilities operations and management program to serve the needs of the Upper Midwest. Through an industry-based panel, he was responsible for identifying courses, developing competencies for each course, and ultimately creating and delivering content for the formal classroom, and through online and hybrid delivery methods. Charlie Holt, he's the creator of Better Building Data. He was a Dunwoody student who graduated in 2000 from the HVAC design program. Better Building Data is a Minneapolis-based company that focuses on helping organizations leverage technology to fill gaps and needs within their daily workflows. Better Building Data works with a variety of markets ranging from the commercial real estate, K-12, healthcare, and industrial manufacturing. With these markets, they work with facility managers, design professionals, contractors, making their digital tools a great platform for collaboration with all stakeholders. We appreciate you guys taking the time to present at our Engineers Association today. I just wanted to remind everybody, all the people who are watching this, that they can ask questions in the chat or Q&A area, and we'll take that as it comes. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll let you guys take it from here.
All right, Damon, are you able to see my screen here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We're going to be taking a journey today through the use of technology as a tool for workforce succession planning. So our agenda, we're really going to be focusing on people as assets, and relative to that topic, how do we leverage technology for the everyday workplace? And we're gonna share a few technologies that ultimately will drive value to your organization, and then we're going to put the icing on the cake here at the end with a tour of a digital twin environment. So to kind of lead off, we're really going to kind of talk about succession planning, because that's really kind of the starting point of all this. And if you're lucky enough to be part of a planned retirement, if you're lucky enough to work in a situation where you have a work culture that has open and honest communication on a regular basis, you're going to have a better chance of seeing the proverbial train headed down the tracks for a planned retirement, right? If you're not in that type of situation, sometimes that would lead to a abrupt announcement, without a dedicated plan. And, that kind of forces a wake-up call, right? I always like to use the analogy, we learn geology the morning after an earthquake. And isn't that true, right? We see that all too often, that lack of planning, thrusts us into a position where, we might have a 2-week notice given by an employee that switches jobs. So one question I would ask you is there a resource in your organization that exists for a new employee to learn the building visually with quick recall for key components of facility engineering, such as emergency shutoff valves? If you're lucky enough to be in a position where you've justified a position to the C-suite, and now you can bring on another engineer, then that's another form of succession planning. So we're going to open the polling up here. So Riley, if you want to get that going. First question here: do you have one or more engineers or lead techs that plan on retiring in the next 3 years? And we're going to leave this open here for a few seconds. Okay, all right. So we're about split here. Okay, that's kind of what I was expecting to see. So a lot of us it looks like we're in a position where, this is going to be pertinent information for us. So second question, Riley, if you want to bring that up on the polling. Will you be in the position to train or onboard a new engineer or technician in the next few years? So it's kind of related to number one. Okay, this one's a little bit more relevant. All right, so yeah, we're sitting at 71% here. So 15 of you are going to be in a position to train and or onboard a new employee. So so that's going to make today's topic especially interesting, I think. So these are some problems, right? So we've identified some problems. We're going to have some retirements that are happening, and we're going to be in a position to onboard fairly quickly, right? So a hero of mine is a gentleman by the name of W. Edwards Deming. He was educated at Yale University, and he's the father, really, of the total quality management effort. And he said it best right here, right? So you can't manage essentially what you can't measure, and isn't that so true? So one of the first measurement topics we want to look at is, why are we losing employees, right? So we kind of hit it, with an overview, but let's dive into it. So the first topic is money, right? So money talks. Assessing your levels of pay, to better understand the market value of engineering position really should be your starting point. You want to see what's happening in and around your market. And, if you are underpaying in your department and or your organization, you need to be prepared for that turnover. And that's what, if you're in that position, if you are in the lower pay threshold, then that's going to make today's session, really important for you. What can you do? I guess, two trains of thought here. Number one, participate in salary surveys from industry organizations. This data, when it's shared throughout the entire survey population, can be extremely valuable in awareness of pay differentials. So that would be kind of the starting point. The second recommendation I would offer up here is, visit the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? So the source down here, you could go to their website, it's bls.gov. And there's just some great data that looks at the different positions in and around the facility management and engineering profession. And, it really allows you to kind of set a benchmark and be able to communicate to the C-suite and to upper management, where we should be seeing some of our pay levels to be competitive. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities area, we're in a really good position compared to the national average already, especially in the low to median range. So good data to share, but again, it'll help you kind of frame up your justification, so to speak, for kind of planning for succession. So second topic we're going to get into is kind of proactive versus reactive work environments. This could be another contributing factor to losing employees, is when they leave your organization for another opportunity. Then the question you want to ask yourself here is, would you rather work in a proactive engineering department or a reactive engineering department? And if you compound this with low funding levels for maintenance budgets, your level of reactive approach may result in losing those quality employees. So you want to ask your question, how do you find out about your work? Does someone have to call you on your cell phone? If you're in that situation, sometimes maybe you feel like a whack-a-mole, where you're just running from one fire to the next. And condition has another factor here too. Your equipment and your assets, if you're at end of life or nearing end of life or past end of life, if you've measured that and you've deferred your PMs, you're probably going to be in a situation where you are just running from one fire to the next. So the condition is important. Measurement of where your proactive versus reactive posture is with your maintenance is important. The 80-20 is kind of the best in class scenario. So 80% proactive, 20% reactive. Many of you I know are in that situation. You have a plan going into the day, and you kind of have a fair idea of how that day is going to plan out. But these are some questions you just want to assess and see where you're at. If you haven't measured, consider measurement, right? And being able to tell that story of moving from reactive to proactive, which ultimately too will increase reliability for your organization too, which I know all C-suite administrators can appreciate. So a simple way to get started, just start with the whiteboard in your shop and put in your energy information, right? So just put in what last year's energy was, what this year's is, and just start to track that as a starting point. That can really kind of thrust you into the measurement role. So leading into technology now. So now that we've framed up, some problems and some baseline starting points, now we're going to get into kind of how do we use technology, to help us. If you feel like your department could use another engineer, if you've ever attempted to justify a new position in your department to the C-suite, and by the C-suite, I mean CEO, CFO, Chief Operating Officer, so on and so forth. they need more information than just we could save the organization money, or we are behind on our maintenance. Like, they're gonna want to see some data. It's just, it is what it is, right? So, and this is where we get into maybe some of the alphabet soup of facility management and engineering. But really, the starting point here is a CMMS system, right? So a computerized maintenance management system is kind of your starting point to measure your proactive versus reactive posture, and be able to tell that story of number of work orders completed and so on and so forth. So this tees up our next polling question. So Riley, if you want to make that active, we'll take a look here at which of you have CMMS systems. All right, fantastic. So we're sitting at 95%. So quite a few of us have the CMMS system. So I'm going to breeze through some of this then, since the most of you already understand the value associated with the CMMS, since you've already had it. But here's a good, so special thanks to Damon here. He provided me with a snapshot of his dashboard that he uses kind of like the command center on a daily basis to understand the work orders that are coming in and out of the building. So this is a very powerful tool. You can track and see which work orders are assigned to who, and it allows you to kind of take your measurements and run your reports accordingly, and provide that to upper management. Another key benefit, and I know probably a lot of you are doing this as well, is the development of an online request form. And so if you're in a situation where your engineers have to get called on their cell phone for work orders, that's an issue, right? That's going to lead us down the reactive path. But there's a way for your occupants to have a self-sufficient way to communicate their maintenance requests. And so if some of you probably already have this function, but if you don't, consider installing and deploying it, because it could keep your technicians turning wrenches longer, and rather than having to drop what they're doing and move from one work order to the next. So by leveraging technology, we can begin to measure our operation and progress to that 80-20 ratio for a proactive maintenance approach. And through measuring our condition, we could increase our justification for planned replacements and reduce working on equipment that's at the end of life. Next up now, we're going to talk about how the modernization of facility engineering is evolving, and really how the pandemic has accelerated these adoptions through fingertip data and digital information. So let's get started. So we know that times, they are changing. If one thing we've learned in the last year is that we're moving at an accelerated path towards technology use. Just in case of what we're doing right now, we're in a Zoom meeting, where in the past we were in person, right? So in 1956, this was a 5 gigabyte hard drive, and you can see where we're at today. And I would even argue we're probably in the there's 1 terabyte sticks now that you can put all your data on. So this is nothing new, right? We have a lot of lessons that we can learn through digital transformation. Our friends at Kodak now, we have we have photos on our phone, right? We can share photos instantly with anyone, anytime. We don't have to wait for film to be developed. Very few of us are headed to a store to rent any kind of movies, right? We have everything on demand digitally with Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and Disney Plus and other providers. And now, instead of walking outside and waiting for a yellow car and flagging it down, we have Uber and Lyft. We're digitally on our smartphones. We can just go ahead and dial up a transportation method and get us from point A to point B. So this is all happening around us. And when you couple that with communication, we used to be in paper-based technology, right? Where You type up a piece of paper, or you have a face-to-face conversation, and now everything's digital, right? So we're getting emails, lots of them, and that's how we're really finding out about a lot of our work, right? So we know all this, right? This is all happening. We've also seen a transition into fingertip technology, right? So it started with the old BlackBerry, a non-color version here, and then we progressed to a color version, with maybe a few more apps on it, and you can run your calendar and keep track of your time. And now we're in a situation where essentially everyone has a smartphone, right? So we have everything at our fingertips that we need, and we have it in a mobile fashion. So how we find facility information, in the past, here's what the past used to look like. And I would argue maybe some plan rooms in your buildings maybe might look like this, right? So you have all your plans, all of your sensitive building information. That was the past, right? Yesterday we had a laptop or maybe even a desktop, and we could do a search and find information. And that's how a lot of our youngsters learn now, is they learn through their laptops by having information. And today now we have it on the go, right? So we're able to take our phones with us and get that information whenever we need it. So accessing that information, again, we used to be in the plan room hunting and searching for shutoff valves, okay? Now we might be in a position, well, even yesterday I would say, we're in a position where we have network access and we have to log into a VPN to get access to maybe some of our information, or maybe it's even on the hard drive. But today now what we're moving to is what we call cloud access, which means it's on the go and we can get it anytime we want through a dedicated connection. So the power here is in sharing. So when we get into the digital landscape, the sharing of this information is really where the rubber meets the road. And that's how the technology fits into the workforce succession planning, is that now we need to be able to share this information. We need to get it out of heads, and we need to get it into repositories, right? So in the past, it was either knowledge-based acquisition or through a paper exchange, right? So here's your as-builts. Here's the documented as-builts. Yesterday we did it, in a digital way on a stick, but today now we're doing, we have the ability to instantly distribute our information to first responders and code officials or vendors. That's all password protected, obviously, but being able to share that for instant collaborations. So this has a tie into new construction and significant renovations. The same examples here. So we used to have paper-based transmissions. Now we're moving into digital and paper. Right? We've already seen that transition. That's pretty prevalent. But now, and I would argue in the future, we'll see everything moved into a complete digital landscape, which is, again, what we saw in those lessons of transformation. Like, that's what's happening, right? So the big lesson we're learning here is that, in the future, facility data needs to be searchable, right? It needs to be just like a Google search, where we have a platform that we could search for our information and we could find what we need instantly, okay? It's nearly impossible to quickly search for paper-based information if you don't have it in your head. And what we're seeing with the retiring workforce is that a lot of people are keeping it in their head. We're not moving in a way where we're documenting any of this. And so when you have these transitions and they happen, everyone's stuck, right? Or the onboarding process is just, it takes 2-3 years to learn a building, especially if it's a large building, right? So, think about a broken water pipe. Okay, we have seconds, seconds and minutes matter in the overall damage to the property and spaces. So if you have a new employee that's jumped into your organization, you're trying to train them up, how are they going to find that shutoff valve, right? So big question there. Technicians need to quickly find information wherever they're working. So think about you're up on the roof working on a unit, and you have to travel, like, let's say it's a newer employee, they have to travel back to the plan room. They have to find the O&M manual, right? They have to hunt and search for the details, only to go then back up to the roof. And by the time you've done that, you've burned an hour of travel time back and forth, right? So this just contributes to the problem that we're going to see here with turnovers. if we're not in a position to digitalize our information. So there's a company out of California called ARC Solutions, which has monetized this pretty well. I use this as an example, not for a promotion of the company, but just to give you an idea of what they've done. You know, they've taken all their 2D drawings and, you know, they digitalize them and put them into a landscape for you. And you can start to map, you know, where your evacuation routes are, where your shutoff valves are, where your utilities enter the building, all your floor plans are organized. You can put in your fire extinguishers, all of your assets, all of your equipment, so it's readily available for someone to learn the building. We actually do a version of this at Dunwoody. So we teach in our program with this. We do it with Google Drive. So you can do this all low cost or no cost by using Google Drive and then setting up a drive folder for all your engineers and technicians. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, we are enrolling at Dunwoody here for this next fall. And you don't have to enroll in the full program either. You can just enroll in a class or two here and there. We'll teach you how to move in that direction with creating digital footprints here. So bottom line here, faster results, right? So eliminating downtime, searching plan rooms, you know, the fast access keeps teams working efficiently. It onboards your employees, gets them up to speed quicker, you know, and it helps contribute to that succession planning, you know, that we talked about. And how do you sell this, right? So how do you go back to the C-suite, you know, some of the folks that are, you know, in the office and they're not in the mechanical rooms with you, you know, how do you sell it, right? Well, first real approach here, lower risk. Okay, so this real-time access, you know, prevents incidents from becoming catastrophes, right? So here's a picture of a water leak in an office, right? You can kind of see the stopgaps that are happening here, but you know, you can share this emergency information to minimize damage, and so that's the big selling point. In addition to onboarding, is you know, we're going to see more and more issues like this pop up with uneducated and unfamiliar technicians that are joining organizations. If they don't have these resources. So all in all, this is how we counter tribal knowledge loss, right? This is how we counter staff turnover. You know, it helps us be prepared for retiring workers, and it transfers knowledge and experience to a digital repository for employee onboarding. So what can we digitalize? In a 3D realm, so we talked a lot about 2D, but there's a lot more that we can do in 3D, and the pandemic has really thrusted us into a position where we're moving faster towards these adoptions. And so I'll hand it over to Charlie here, and he'll take you on a journey through the digital twin world.
Thank you, Derek. Yes, I'm Charlie Holt with Better Building Data. I started my journey back in Dunwoody in 1998 through the HVAC design program. Over the course of the years, working as a contractor, an estimator, a direct owner, account manager, one thing was common throughout the whole journey and path is the amount of data that we had. Was it accurate? Did we have accurate floor plans? Did we have accurate O&M manuals? And was it even available? Much of my time was spent around helping find and create that data. And over the course of years, I found some tools along the way to help my team and my clients do better work within that. In 2018, I was enjoying this part of it so much that I left corporate and started my own business in the world of digital asset management. So really at the beginning, we talked about that intro. We help fill the gaps and needs of our partners, and its owners, its contractors, its staff. We're here to help leverage that technology to do better within our organizations. So this is probably my favorite slide to show on every presentation. We got the wrecking ball coming in, and that could be a compelling event of anything from COVID to a retirement to a building upgrade or a building move into a new building or a change of ownership. That compelling event could be any one of the above. And before we get there, we wonder whether it's worth investing in that technology. And we're here to help you educate and learn to take a proactive approach to that and get it integrated earlier to help deal with the compelling events that come in within our business. A quote that I found not too long ago here, digital twin really drives that business outcome. And you could think of it from the efficiency of a construction project to a design to being able to fix and repair in a minimal amount of time. Really having that digital twin of all that information eliminates the guesswork, and it's there to help you prevent that catastrophic failure in many cases. So we look at our industry overall, and you think of the things that we do in our buildings. We have smart buildings and lighting control and BAS and security and all the things that go with it. We had a lot of great technology integrated into what we do. But really overall, the total environment, are we really leveraging it from all sectors of our business? We still have a long ways to go compared to other industries and other markets overseas, Europe and Asia, other places. They are definitely a bit ahead of the curve from where we're that early adoption into things. But I look at this as a benefit or an opportunity to do better leveraging technology. So the poll question, where does the O&M manual live? Is it paper, Excel, CMMS, or other? Paper. Yes, very traditional. Seeing a lot of things coming along with the CMMS and then the other. So when we talk about the metrics of being able to find that information, where is it made available? That's where technology gives us a big opportunity to do better. So a lot of areas that I guess if I had to grab 3 different buckets of where we really help to focus and how we bring it all together is industry has communicated with us. We need to shore up our staffing. We need to shore up our contractors, and we need to do a better job in the capital planning and budget process. So as we all have information or professionals to do that, we try and bring an environment that everybody can collaborate and share that information together. So we look at staffing needs when we have new people coming on. How do they get the right information? Where do they know everything's in the building? If they need help with something, how do you share what that is? And really bring in a centralized location around there that is a staff support. CMMS is a great option. We leverage some other tools along the way, whether it be smart tagging. Instead of that O&M manual being on the shelf, how about we put it on the piece of equipment? And we've gone to simple measures like that to really help our clients bridge between contractors, staffing, and capital planning. The world of contractors, how do we make sure that they have all the information? You might have the same technician that's been there for 20 years, but what if he's on vacation? What if something else is on call? How do we have all that information available? Again, do you walk to the boiler room and get the O&M manual to figure out where things are? Or do we have an opportunity to put that information on the equipment to make that time more efficient when we're in front of it? We look at a lot of, as we're doing competitively bid work, making sure everybody's got all the information. that they need to put in a qualified bid. And a lot of times reducing the amount of time we're walking contractors through the job. So if we give them that virtual environment and all the information they need to provide qualified pricing, what value is that to the owner, besides saving time and mitigating risk in their projects? Really, for the capital planning and property management, as we go through, again, paper, emails, old traditional plans, they tell a portion of the story. But I think leveraging the digital technology to bring it all together around, again, the value of CMMS. You know, do we have a good history of repairs? How many times have we had to fix that piece of equipment before we can justify the cost of replacing it out? A 2D picture versus having a virtual environment of the whole thing. And a lot into the compliance. Where is everything located? We're leveraging RFID to find valves and fire smoke dampers and different items that are above the ceiling. So we don't have to go pop all the ceiling tiles out just to find something. But in that capital planning process, now we're bringing a real-time view of it to the table versus what did it look like when we first built it. A couple examples, little stories to go through. This was actually my first experience, the aha moment of the digital twin went off, working on a project that I needed some critical measurements about 3 hours from town. I missed a measurement and had to drive and invest that 3.5 hours to go back out there again. When I did, I leveraged some technology that we had just early adopted in. And instead of just collecting those measurements, I collected all the information. And then I was able to use that with my technicians, with the owner. I developed contingency planning, and then that O&M manual we attached to the piece of equipment. So that was that aha moment for better building data to be created. And from there, we just kind of built that story on into things. And I was more efficient. As a young account manager, I was able to get help from my peers and do it in real time without having to mobilize to the site. I slowly brought this into the world of turnkey, where I had a boiler change out. So I collaborated with an engineer how we were going to share that information from top to bottom. Simple things around O&M manuals, mechanical equipment plates, pictures of panels so we could reduce the amount of time and impact on the building. And as I was getting help for changing out the equipment, doing my estimations, I was able to do real-time measurements and sit at my desk doing that safely versus driving another 3 hours out to the job site. So that efficiency and that collaboration that we could do from one end of the spectrum, from an owner budgeting to a design engineer, to a contractor, to the facility management team, that shared information was invaluable as we went through the process. We looked at doing conditional assessments and how do we really document things. Within some of the software's capability out there, we can put notes in collaboration. Derek could have red font, Damon could have green font, Charlie could have black font. And we could all collaborate in those environments and talk about things that were important along the way. So we started developing what is the use of more than just a picture, but how do we utilize that data to do more across the stream? So again, measurements, we were able to embed O&M manuals and information right on the piece of equipment. Now we went from just a smart tag and a QR code on the equipment that we had redundancy and built it into that virtual model. Technology is out there, and now we're seeing the next level of complexity into the data. So not only are we able to use that data to create design documents, do long-term asset management, collaboration with our teams, but now we can start really looking at this. This is an example of a grocery store, and I guess an example I would have never thought of until probably about 6 months ago is when they do a roofing project. A lot of times they have what they call conduit strikes. And it'll end up being that if a low voltage conduit strike occurs during screwing down the membrane, that it can wipe out the cash registers. The compelling event is you have a bunch of people who can't buy their groceries, no credit cards, so they abandon their shopping carts right there and then. So how do we map that out? And up until today, it's been a physical process, long drawn out, that really doesn't give accurate data. So now we've got all the visual of the data. We've drawn out the store. Now the lower left-hand corner is actually a heat map of the sloping of the roof. So now we can start doing slope analysis, floor flatness testing. We can start seeing that data safely from up above. So the rich content of the data as we're coming through the digital twin is more than just tagging and implementing service management, but now we're using that to do other evaluations along the way. And it's just a byproduct of what we collect every day. So love to show you a quick example of what a digital twin looks like and talk you through just an example of where our thought process was. All right, everyone can see my screen. So the first example I gave you was 3.5 hours outside of town.
Hey, Charlie, we're not able to see your screen.
How about now?
There you go.
There we go. I got to hit that last button. So again, that trip, 3.5 hours, compelling event of spending another day to go get one measurement. I was able to try out the technology in real time. So the measurement I missed was right on top of the compressor for an overhaul project. While I was there, my goal was to capture just the chiller room. And then it slowly progressed into capturing the pumps, the boilers, and then everything in between. With this, the power of the visuals of what we could see and the information we could gain, real time. How do we get a rental chiller in? Where do we stage it? Where do we connect with that electrical? All those questions started being able to be answered in a collaborative environment. My electrician didn't need to be on site with me to talk about where it needs to be. My technician didn't need to be on site to show me where to do the connections and where we had to do the planning. So all this collaboration and information started coming about in real time. We slowly progressed it into how do we make it available? So by adding in equipment documentation, O&M manuals, click on the dot and you can bring up a copy of the O&M manual that's probably sat a 15-minute walk away from this room. We could start looking at safety and contingency planning. If something happens with the piece of equipment, what is the shutdown? What's the sequence of operation to restarting? We can put that information in there. And along the way, we could look at service information. Is there a folder of everything that we can see the latest equipment information, shared tribal knowledge of when repairs were done, what were those log reports, different information along the way, parts list, looking up where we can get repair parts in a short amount of time. Quickly progressed it into other tags around the room. And this virtual model gave us an environment that allowed young staff and young technicians and new people to have all that same tribal knowledge as the guy that had been taking care of it for 20 years. As we got into some turnkey type projects, we were able to snap and do some measurements in real time. It didn't have to be anything critical, but at least we had the ability to communicate, collaborate, and get real-time information for our team to be successful. The other example I gave you was in the world of a turnkey change-out project. Here's that same model. We were able to put information into tags and information. along the way as we were able to do this project. Again, it's all real time. This is the actual environment. How many times in the world of building plans could we see actually what this physical environment was all about? You know, it never looks the same after we move on in. So that's where we really gain the information and be able to do the shared collaboration thing. We were able to tie together data from inside the building to outside the building and be able to look at in real time as well. So collaborating, using these virtual twins, getting all that information, it really helps from staff to contractors to you know, the capital planning and contingency planning along the way. So our message to you today, there's some real simple things you can do, like that QR code and NFC tag on the equipment. Instead of the O&M manual living on the shelf, let's put it on the equipment. There's some technologies out there that will help you do accurate and fast speed auditing along the way. And these virtual environments can really help you be on the same page across your whole organization in each and every project that you do, from pre-planning to what's behind the walls and the finished project when it's all said and done. I think we're back to you, Derek.
All right, we left enough time here for some Q&A, so we'd like to kind of open it up to the group here. Feel free to put any kind of questions in the chat feature if that's something you'd like to do, or just let us know what questions you might have and how we could help provide some answers to your questions. There was one question that came in. Where did you find the salary information? And to everyone, I put in, I believe, the address www.bls.gov. So if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, you'll be able to search for those different positions that might be applicable to your profession.
I think there's a question around cautions around the technologies. From our standpoint, what we look at, we actually create a roadmap to success with our clients. We want to better understand who needs access to the data, where we want that data be stored and accessed and how, and as well as does it need to be secure or unsecure. So into the world of, as we're doing this planning process of implementing technology, really understanding how to answer those questions along the way is pretty important. We're seeing a lot of models with long-term SaaS fees and other things like that. So as we're doing this, being conscious about what programs will we have to pay access fees to, and which ones are maybe a low-cost, no-cost option.
Yeah, I'll add on and jump into that. You know, one of the topics we talk about is, you know, technology really has been accelerated through the pandemic, right? So we're seeing adoptions that, you know, we're going to take a couple of years to kind of mature and really be mainstream. We're seeing that being fast tracked. And, you know, the one caution that I would offer up to the entire group is just do your homework on the security side of where you want your data to reside. You know, some of these solutions that we're sharing with you, you know, these are SaaS or software as a service type of approach where you have to pay $70 a month or $100 a month for access to your own data. And so you want to think about that. There are alternatives that are being developed where you can own your own data without having to pay the monthly fee for access to it. But think of it as like, you know, having Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, right? So now you're tied to that monthly fee now. And once you end that, you lose all your access to your data. So that's a real challenge, I think, that we're wrestling with in the industry. is this tech is fantastic, but we haven't really done a good job putting guardrails up around the sandbox, so to speak. And so you just need to be really real cautionary when before you jump into the world. So Charlie, looks like you have a question there.
Technology is awesome. I can't believe that everything in a building downtown and beyond would want that option for our systems and facilities. You know, it's not made for, again, mapping out what's important to you and what isn't. A lot of that starting place might be your mechanical rooms and other information. Building out that roadmap and how to implement the right information where. That's really where it all starts and begins, is that planning process to get on through. We focus a lot heavy on HVAC and mechanical, critical systems, and that's a lot of the day-to-day operation of what we do. We help around developing accurate floor plans. We just recently did a project that there was a room nobody even knew there was within a school. So really, as we go through, and these buildings are dynamic and they're always being changed, we're renovating, fixing things and adding things. Creating that virtual twin will help you stay abroad. But you're right, in there, I can't believe that I would love to create the digital twin of every building downtown incomplete, but really it's around a priority of what you need the most help and service with.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's this technology isn't going to be for everyone. Especially starting out, like we talked about some of the. To be frank, just it's immature right now, right? A lot of the technology just isn't there yet. But if you think about the title of today's webinar, using technology to solve the workforce succession problem, a lot of us have really large buildings, and can you really afford to have 6 months, a year, 2 years for that onboarding process for technicians to get familiar with your building? And you couple that with the silver tsunami that's happening with the retiring workforce and all the new faces that we're going to have come into the profession. Some that are skilled, some that are unskilled. Let's just call it how it is. This technology will help that process. So that's the frame of mind that I would always, encourage everyone that is on the fence with this to revert back to is, what is your purpose, right? And in the context of today's presentation, the purpose is we need to onboard and we need to replace retiring employees that have been with us for 30 years and have all this tribal knowledge. How does that, we don't want that walking out the door, right? So this is a great way to do it. Another great way to do it is I've talked to a couple of the directors of facilities that are actually doing facility condition assessments in-house as a way to capture tribal knowledge before these folks retire. So they've actually marshaled their in-house electrician, their in-house carpenter, their in-house plumber, and the entire summer, all they do are condition assessments of their properties within their building portfolio. And they do all that to document the knowledge that exists that, these folks are getting ready to retire. Like, they're going to be out the door. Can you imagine losing three people in your organization that have 30 plus years of experience each, all at the same time? As the building chief, that's a tough situation to be in, right? And so how do you see that train, again, how do you see that proverbial train, coming down the tracks?
I want to just add one more quick thing to, as we look at using this technology, we've been really facility directed into this, but you think of all the things that are happening in the building, from interior designs and renovation to facilities and operations to security. We could leverage all this data is shared across all these revenues or these streams within a business. We're getting more consideration around security. We have people coming in and out, and security guards and people making sure our buildings are safe, where we're embedding information of here's doors and areas that we need to focus to make sure we do a good job of monitoring throughout the days and that. So the collaboration of notes to going in there really is a pretty important part of the value of the products and services too.
Well, great. Unless there's any other questions, I think we can wrap it up for the month. I do want to say thank you very much for coming out and doing this, guys. This was a great presentation. This is hits pretty close to home for a lot of us, I'm sure. So, but great information. I want to thank everybody else for attending the meeting, and I hope we're able to get that tour in for the Gateway project. But we'll keep you updated on that. So, otherwise, thanks a lot for attending. We appreciate it.